Unbelievable twist. Struggling dad's last $10 transforms into life-changing gift for hidden CEO. Jason wiped the grease from his hands as he walked into the twilight, the weariness of the week clinging to him like an unwelcome scent. He still had hope for his two children, Emily and Ben, who were bundled up in the warmth of laughter, but it was a fragile veneer. After losing his factory job, he was drowning in bills, barely keeping the waterline from reaching his chin. Each ratcheting tool in his small garage served as a reminder of forgotten aspirations. Hard work and honesty were the virtues he preached, but with every passing day, he felt the gnawing bite of desperation. On a balmy Friday evening, he found himself wandering into a neighborhood garage sale, driven both by curiosity and the hope of finding something he could use. Among the mismatched kitchenware and age-worn furniture, a dusty toolbox caught his eye. It bore the scars of age, drawing him in. $10, the owner called, and as he fumbled for his last bill, doubt crept in. Was this the best use of his dwindling funds? He hesitated, wondering if making repairs with these tools was worth it, if the expenditure was just another strike on his already teetering balance sheet. He bought it, convinced that it could help him stay afloat just a bit longer. Yet as he peeled back the grime layers, a sense of excitement coursed through him as each vintage tool emerged. These were not mere implements, they held history, the ghost of a forgotten master. With every piece he uncovered, he felt a flicker of hope that crumbled against his doubt. Could these tools truly change his life? Would he be morally justified in using them to turn his luck around? The visions of his children attending college glimmered before him, only to be chased away by the weight of what he might gain at the cost of someone else's loss. His mind raced as he abandoned the garage sale fantasy. The internal struggle became a duel, honorability versus desperation. What if a rightful owner had longed to reclaim them? What if the shadows of honesty he clung to were shifting, morphing into betrayal? The urgency clawed at him as late-night phone calls buzzed with uncertainty, and frantic searches for answers only added fuel to the fire, leaving him with more questions than solutions. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Each moment dragged him deeper into anguish. In the dead of night, his truck broke down on the way home. He stood stranded, the headlights casting a lonely glow on the asphalt. Anxiety squeezed at his chest. How would he fix this? Should he abandon the toolbox? In his desperation, he decided to visit the sprawling mansion at the top of the hill, the presumed residence of the toolbox's last owner. It became a precipice of uncertainty for him, every step weighing down with moral conflict. What was he about to do? Was he returning tools or relinquishing a piece of himself? As Jason approached the door, a swell of dread clashed with a rush of determination in his chest. The stakes felt impossibly high, and with a breath deep enough to steady his wavering resolve, he knocked. A faint echo responded, and as the door creaked open, his heart raced with limitless possibility. He was crossing into the unknown, where each decision could redefine everything he believed about loyalty, success, and his sense of purpose. The door swung open to reveal an imposing figure framed in the dim light behind him, the owner of the toolbox. Jason felt a torrent of emotions, fear, guilt, and a flicker of hope intertwined in a mess of indecision. The man gazed down at Jason, his expression unreadable, yet there was a glimmer of recognition in his eyes. "Can I help you?" he asked, his voice smooth yet edged with curiosity. Taking a deep breath, Jason summoned the courage to speak. I found a toolbox at a garage sale. Your toolbox, I believe. I wanted to return it." The admission hung in the air, each word tasting like metal against his tongue. The man's eyes narrowed slightly, processing Jason's earnestness. "My tools?" He stepped aside, allowing Jason to cross the threshold. Suddenly the atmosphere shifted. The grand home was filled with the scent of polished wood and distant memories, as though success breathed within its walls. "I didn't mean to intrude," Jason admitted, his heart thumping audibly. Things have been tough. This was all I had left, and I thought—" "Thought you could sell them?" the man inferred, surveying Jason's worn jeans and tired demeanor. A flash of understanding passed between them, though one was rooted in desperation while the other remained firmly anchored in privilege. "No, I couldn't do that." Jason's resolve layered over his self-doubt. "They reminded me of my dad, the craftsmanship, the care. I didn't want to profit from someone else's loss." The man studied him, eyebrows arched. "These tools belong to my grandfather? He taught me everything about this trade. They're more than just metal. They're legacy." A beat passed, laden with the weight of unspoken stories. "You're a man of principle, aren't you? Jason swallowed, feeling a flicker of kinship ignite within the shadows of his despair. "I try to be, but it's hard, sometimes impossible." "Why don't you tell me your story?" the man suggested, guiding Jason to the well-appointed kitchen. As they sat across from each other, the gulf between their lives felt both enormous and trivial. Jason's hands trembled, the weight of his truth clawing at him. "I lost my job a while ago," he began, his voice steadier than he felt. "I'm doing what I can to support my kids. I thought maybe with these tools I could start fixing things around the house, maybe even make a little cash if I had to." "Have you ever considered starting your own repair business?" The thought landed like a stone. "No, I've never thought I had it in me." "Maybe you do." The man leaned forward, his interest piqued. "You have more tools than you realize, Jason. Skills, experience, and the right mindset." Disbelief washed over Jason. Could he really pivot from desperation to entrepreneurship? What if he failed? What if this man was merely being kind, offering hollow words of encouragement? "You don't have anything to lose by trying," the man pressed, his gaze unwavering. "Try fixing something small. You find that you can turn this struggle into something meaningful." Jason felt the stirrings of something deep inside him, ambition or fear, perhaps, but it was undeniably there, lurking beneath the surface, whispering of possibilities. Maybe he could become more than a struggling dad. Perhaps he could reclaim his narrative. By the time Jason left, the weight of the toolbox no longer felt like a burden. Inside it lay not just tools, but a glimmer of purpose. As he stepped back into the night, uncertainty gnawed at him, but so too did something else, determination. Arriving home, he turned the toolbox over in his mind. It wasn't just about returning lost property. It was about seizing an opportunity. He needed to explore this new path, a journey that would require courage he hadn't realized he possessed. And as the moonlight poured into his living room, illuminating the quiet laughter of his children down the hall, he knew the time had come to face his own fears, and perhaps the larger challenges that had haunted him for years. But with every step forward, a single question lingered. What if the effort wasn't just to save himself, but to build something lasting for his family? The moment of truth was approaching. The next morning, Jason awoke with barely a moment's reprieve from the thoughts that cascaded through his mind. The toolbox rested in the corner of his living room, a silent challenge that beckoned him to engage with it. He had considered what it could mean for his future, but the fear of failure loomed larger than the glimmer of hope. After getting the kids ready for school, Jason stood before the toolbox, heart pounding. What tools could offer him a chance? A peeling cabinet? A loose stair railing? Fixing something small seemed trivial, yet it could be the spark he needed. He reached into the box, fingers brushing over the tools with reverence. Each one bore its own story, a connection to craftsmanship that resonated within him. Stripped of extravagant plans, the act felt elemental, just him, a task, and the satisfaction could follow from successfully executing it. Fueled by determination, Jason decided to tackle the stair railing first. It wasn't glamorous work, true, but it spoke to his desire to create a safe space for his family. As he pried off the loose screws, he felt the tension in his body dissipate, replaced by focus. Time melted away beneath the rhythmic sound of the screwdriver clanking against metal. Midway through the project, he paused. A sudden realization struck him. He was actually doing it. The railing was becoming what it should be, bolstering a structure that meant everything to him. The unexpected jolt of pride energized him, challenging the notion that he was merely a placeholder in his own life. Later that day, he took the kids to a nearby park. As they played, the sunlight breaking through the leaves, their laughter echoed like a sweet melody. In those precious moments, Jason realized that every chance taken, every step forward, was a message not just to himself, but also to his children. He wanted them to see their father reclaiming his narrative, pouring his heart into something meaningful. As the sun dipped below the horizon, he felt a surge of confidence. 2 days ago, he had been paralyzed by fear, questioning his worth. Now, a small victory against one of his household challenges fueled him, igniting a sense of potential he had long buried. That night, after tucking the children in, he sat down at the kitchen table. Armed with a notebook, Jason began scribbling ideas for a small repair business. The risk seemed less daunting than before. After all, innovation often springs from necessity. His hands trembled as he outlined services he could provide: home repairs, furniture assembly, maybe even some odd jobs. Each line on the paper felt like reclaiming a piece of himself. But as the notes accumulated, an internal conflict simmered beneath the surface. Would people trust him, a few days into fixing his first railing, to take on their homes? Could he rise against the insecurities that kept him shackled for so long? Determined, Jason decided the next step was to find a way to test his abilities. He pulled out his phone and scrolled for local community boards where people offered and sought help. There, he found whispers of opportunities, neighbors looking for small repairs. Jason's stomach twisted with excitement, but trepidation held him back. What if those small jobs were a reflection of his destiny? Could he go from fixing his own home to being in demand? He took a deep breath, set down his phone, and stood tall. Tomorrow he would reach out. He would take his first brave step into the world of entrepreneurship, despite the fluttering insecurity within. The moment was ripe, one that could redefine his journey. But deep down another question lingered, whispering in the stillness of the night. What if this newfound path led him to confront who he truly was, not just as a father or a man, but as the architect of a legacy in his own right? Answer awaited him just out of reach. The following morning, determination coursed through Jason as he mentally rehearsed the message he intended to send. He could already sense the energy shifting within him, fueling plans that had just felt like whispers the day before. Over cups of lukewarm coffee, he recalled how simple actions had unexpectedly ignited confidence. The decision to reach out weighed heavily, yet he found comfort in knowing that action was the antidote to fear. As he crafted the post for the local community board, he paused often, grappling with self-doubt as he typed. Each sentence felt like a reflection of his scattered thoughts, an invitation to others that implied he was ready, even if a part of him still hesitated. "Experienced handyman available for small jobs," he wrote, the words sitting like a breadcrumb of hope. It was a simple phrase, yet it felt monumental. Could it really be the beginning of something more? Jason hit send, the click of the button echoing in the quiet kitchen. Instantly, a rush of exhilaration mingled with anxiety gripped him. He stepped outside, breathing in the crisp morning air, allowing it to settle his racing thoughts. Sitting on the porch, he observed the hustle of the neighborhood unfolding. The kids heading to school, neighbors greeting one another, the fabric of life continuing around him. With his phone nearby, he drifted into an internal monologue about the implications of his choices. What if someone needed help? What if they said yes? The prospect was exhilarating, but it nagged at him like a persistent itch. What if he failed? The past echoed loud in his mind, littered with late nights spent in frustration and missed opportunities. But as the sun crept higher, illuminating his small yard, he pushed back against those memories. He quickly regrouped, realizing that fear was a choice just as much as the decision to move forward was. Opportunities rarely appear when one remained stagnant. Jason felt a burgeoning urgency to transform his newfound spark into action. A ping jolted him from his thoughts. A response to his post surfaced on his phone, sending ripples of adrenaline through him. "Could you come look at a fence that needs mending?" the message read. The faint tremor of excitement intertwined with his mounting apprehension. This was it, his first potential job. He messaged back quickly, a mix of eagerness and determination fueling his response. "Absolutely! When can we meet?" Scheduling the visit, he envisioned how the repair would unfold, picturing each step required to restore the fence to its original condition. That image morphed into a broader one. If he could manage a simple job like this, what else could he achieve? As the appointed time drew closer, he gathered the tools, double-checking each item with meticulous care. Holding each tool in his hand felt like claiming a fragment of control over his narrative. The sun dipped lower, and the glow of dusk painted his home in hues of gold and purple. He closed his eyes, allowing the moment to envelop him, letting the reality of what he was about to do sink in. While driving to the client's house, each beat of his heart matched the pulse of ambition within him. He recognized the shift. This wasn't just about fixing a fence. It represented everything he longed to achieve: self-reliance, creativity, new beginnings. As he parked and approached the house, Jason wrestled with a question that loomed over him. Would he manage to impress this first client? Each step forward was imbued with equal parts excitement and trepidation, an amalgamation of feelings that fueled him. The very act of confronting this challenge promised growth and an answer to the existential question that danced around his consciousness. He was about to find out who he was in this new role. But as he knocked on the door, his heart racing with adrenaline, he wondered if he was truly prepared for what might come next. For in this moment, the stakes felt unexpectedly high. Behind that door lay not just a client, but possibly the windfall he needed to propel him into a future he had only begun to imagine. What awaited him on the other side could change everything. The door creaked open, revealing an older man with a welcoming smile. "You must be Jason," he said, extending a hand. Jason took it, feeling the firm grip like a promise. The man introduced himself as Mr. Thompson, the homeowner who awaited assistance for a fence that had seen better days. "Thanks for coming on such short notice," Mr. Thompson continued, motioning for Jason to step inside. As he followed the man through a modest living room filled with framed photos and an abundance of warm light, an unexpected wave of comfort washed over him. It brought to mind the simpler times, helping his own father with home repairs. The tension in his shoulders began to ease, replaced by a budding confidence. After discussing the issues with the fence over coffee, Mr. Thompson led Jason to the backyard. The fence stood crooked, a weathered remnant of a once proud structure. Jason knelt to inspect the problem, running his fingers along the wood and studying its alignment. He envisioned the steps required for the repair, mentally prepping himself for the task at hand. This was it, the moment of challenge that could define his resolve. "Do you think you can handle it?" Mr. Thompson asked, a note of skepticism threading through his tone. Jason's heart raced, yet he met the older man's gaze and replied, "Absolutely, I'm ready for this." The conviction in his voice surprised him, yet it felt right. There was no backing down now. Failure wasn't an option. As he worked, each movement transformed his initial anxiety into a rhythm of creation. The repetitive physicality of repairing the fence steadied his mind. He felt empowered, drawing upon skills he hadn't used in years. Measuring, sawing, hammering. What had once felt foreign began to reconnect him with a sense of purpose. But just as he was gaining momentum, doubt clawed its way back to the surface. What if the fence didn't look right? What if Mr. Thompson wasn't satisfied? The whispers of self-doubt threatened to shake his focus, compelling him to compare his work with the polished measures of professionals. He paused, putting down the hammer, and took a deep breath. In that moment, Jason confronted his own expectations. Why was he burdening himself with a standard that felt unbearable? His experience was different. It was raw, unpolished, a reflection of authenticity. He realized he had been so caught up in what others might think that he had forgotten one simple truth. His value lay in his willingness to learn and adapt. With renewed determination, Jason picked up the tools again. Each movement became more confident, each task a testament to his resilience. He was not just repairing a fence, he was reclaiming his own self-worth. Hours later, with the sun beginning to slide beneath the horizon, Jason stepped back to admire his handiwork. The fence stood straight and sturdy, a stark contrast to its previous condition. Mr. Thompson emerged from the house, eyes bright with approval. "That looks incredible. You've done a wonderful job," he said earnestly. Pride bubbled within Jason, elevating his spirits. His efforts had paid off, but this achievement reached beyond the physical labor. It breathed life into his aspirations of becoming a handyman, of embracing the potential that had long been buried under the weight of self-doubt. "Maybe this is just the beginning," Jason murmured to himself, feeling an electric pulse of ambition. The idea of other opportunities began to take shape, each one filling him with hope and resolve. As he packed up his tools, Mr. Thompson handed him cash for the job, along with a business card. "If you're looking to take on more work, let me know. I know a few folks who could use someone like you." Jason's heart raced, swollen with both excitement and fear. Could he really step into a larger role, facing greater challenges? Accepting the card felt like a pivotal moment. He was suddenly on the brink of a new chapter. Driving home, the possibilities swirled in his mind, and he knew he had just crossed an invisible threshold. What lay ahead was unclear, but for the first time, he felt ready to confront it. He wasn't just Jason anymore. He was someone who had begun to carve out a path defined by action and resilience. Yet, even as he focused on the road, he couldn't shake the coming realization that the next call he received could shape his life's trajectory. Would he be brave enough to seize it? The next morning brought an energetic buzz, the kind that only a new day filled with promise could generate. Jason awoke with a restless urgency, heart hammering to the rhythm of impending opportunity. The business card lay on his nightstand, a physical reminder of the leap he had taken just yesterday toward a new identity. He had a decision to make. Could he trust that glimmer of ambition? With his fingers brushing against the card, he felt a jolt of determination. It was time to take a risk. Perhaps it was time to make some calls. After breakfast, Jason pulled up Mr. Thompson's card. The morning light cascaded through the kitchen window as he contemplated the implications of reaching out. He could feel a lump of uncertainty in his throat. Was he truly ready for this? Was he fully prepared to step outside the confines of his comfort zone? With quick breaths, he dialed the number written on the card. The ringing felt eternal, each tone echoing his hesitation. Eventually, a gruff voice answered. "Hello? Hi, Mr. Thompson. It's Jason," he stammered, the nerves creasing his voice. "I just wanted to thank you for the job in the card. I would like to ask if you might know of any additional work available." There was a brief pause on the line, and Jason's stomach tightened. "Absolutely," Mr. Thompson replied, his voice warmer than Jason had expected. "You did a great job on the fence. I believe my neighbor, Mr. Jenkins, could use some help. I can give you his number if you're interested." "Yes, please." The eagerness in his voice surprised him. The prospect of gaining a new client pushed him over the edge, igniting a flame of excitement. After hanging up, he remembered the sense of pride from last night. What if today was another step toward building something sustainable? He looked through his tools, organizing them with newfound vigor. Each piece of equipment reflected a promise, an invitation to the unknown. Soon after, he took out his laptop and set up a simple flyer. Eyes bright, he drafted a list of potential services: fence repair, garden maintenance, and minor renovations. The thought of putting his skills into action was electrifying. As he put together the flyer, doubts began to creep in. What if someone called? Would he be able to deliver? He could feel that old familiar weight of insecurity trying to seep back in. It wasn't enough to silence it. He needed to confront those nagging doubts head on. He paused and took a breath, mentally preparing for the potential challenges ahead. Success would demand more than just physical skills. It required flexibility, roles to play, customers to meet. Once finished, Jason printed the flyer and began his first round of distribution to nearby businesses and community boards. He felt an exhilarating combination of fear and excitement. Each flyer was a seed, a small act of confidence planted in hopes of growth. This might have been exciting, but even as he moved through his neighborhood, he felt the weight of judgment from passers-by. What if they laughed? "Imposter," a voice echoed in his mind. What if they saw through his facade? Jason pressed on, feeling the grip of the self-doubt loosen just enough to allow him to keep moving. After several stops, he returned home, heart racing and head spinning with possibilities. The phone could ring any moment, but he also knew the work was only beginning. Now came the test of his resolve. That evening, as he lay in bed replaying the day's strides, his phone buzzed against the wooden nightstand. He jumped, startled. The screen lit up, revealing an unknown number. Taking a deep breath, he answered, anticipation bubbling within him. "Hello?" The voice on the other end was unfamiliar. "Hi, Jason. This is Rick from Clarksdale. I just saw your flyer and would like to discuss some work." Jason's breath hitched. This was it, the moment he had been both hoping and fearing. He was no longer just a handyman. He was venturing into the unknown, where potential awaited behind every chance interaction. As he ended the call, a powerful realization dawned on him. He had taken the first step away from mediocrity, moving forward despite the fear. Yet a lingering thought remained. Could he adapt quickly enough to meet the expectations of strangers? This created a new layer of anxiety, making the stakes even higher than before. With pulse racing, he wondered if this would be the pivotal moment of transformation he craved, or if the wave of self-doubt would crash back over him. Would he rise to the challenge, or would this be a test he wasn't ready for? The choice loomed ahead, a precipice he needed to step off into the unknown. As the dawn of a new day broke, Jason lay staring at the ceiling, wrestling with the weight of the fresh uncertainty unspooling in front of him. The call from Rick had ignited a fire within, one laced with both excitement and a creeping dread. Reality was becoming tangibly different, but would he rise to the occasion his shifting identity demanded? He sat up in bed, rubbing the back of his neck as he mentally reviewed his newfound commitment. The specter of self-doubt loomed large, whispering reminders of past failures, missed opportunities, hesitant decisions, moments where he shrank back, allowing the familiar stagnation to control him. Today, however, as he swung his legs over the side of the bed, Jason felt the slight shimmer of possibility. After showering, he prepared a simple breakfast with a sense of renewed focus. Each bite felt like fuel for the changes ahead. Jason jolted at the thought. Today, a stranger would be relying on him for assistance. That weight was both exhilarating and terrifying. To prove himself was one thing. To meet another's expectations was an entirely different realm of responsibility. Before heading out, he reviewed the message Rick had left. It was straightforward. They were to meet at the local cafe just past noon. Jason pulled on his worn but reliable work boots and grabbed his toolkit, feeling a protective instinct rise. The tools had been instruments of his grafting efforts, symbols of his unfolding journey. As he arrived at the cafe, the aroma of coffee and pastries filled the air, providing a soft cushion against his rising anxiety. He scanned the room, searching for Rick, and soon spotted him.
Sitting at a corner table, a lean man with a cropped beard, dressed sharply, his expression focused. That simple sight ignited another layer of doubt in Jason's mind. Would he fit into this new world? With a deep breath, Jason approached. "Rick?" He offered a tentative smile. "Jason, glad you could make it," Rick replied, extending a hand. Jason took it, feeling the firm grip communicate a blend of assurance and challenge. They exchanged pleasantries, but the conversation quickly shifted toward the job at hand, repairs on a distressed property that Rick managed. As the details unfolded, Jason listened intently, keenly aware of the way Rick's eyes sparkled with the knowledge of a job well done. Confidence permeated Rick's words, and that confidence sparked an internal fire for Jason. Words like renovation, timeliness, and quality were tossed around, and with each mention, Jason could feel the sinking weight of expectation settling on him. Suddenly, a wave of realization crashed over him. This wasn't merely about fixing up a house. It was a potential turning point, the opportunity to solidify his credibility. Jason nodded as Rick elaborated on the project timeline. The urgency, coupled with the clarity of Rick's expectations, felt like a calling. Yet doubt started to bubble again. What if he couldn't deliver? "Do you think you can handle this, Jason?" Rick cut through his thoughts, seeking a direct answer. Swallowing hard, Jason managed a steady gaze. "I can." "Good, then let's talk numbers." The shift in Rick's tone was palpable. He was expecting not just competence, but initiative. In the ensuing conversation about costs, timelines, and logistics, Jason felt the lines of his fledgling identity solidifying. This was an opportunity to prove not just to Rick, but to himself, that he belonged here. As he walked back to his truck, armed with a sense of purpose, a seed of determination began to sprout within him. He wanted to succeed, not just with this job, but as a professional and as a man, stepping away from mediocrity. What was at stake transcended the repair of a house. It was a chance to reclaim his narrative. Driving home, thoughts swirled, echoing queries about managing the budget, balancing time constraints, and producing quality work. Yet, with each thought, he felt more prepared and capable. When he parked the truck, the hub of uncertainty had shifted, replaced by a new conviction that if he committed wholeheartedly, he could defy the anxieties that threatened to hold him back. But as he gathered his tools for a new start, a nagging sensation struck him. What if something went wrong? What if unforeseen challenges arose, placing him right back in the cycle of self-doubt? Those questions hovered, tantalizingly close, as Jason prepared to take on the unknown once more. In the coming hours, as he stood on the threshold of this pivotal project, one unbearable thought clawed at him. Was he truly ready to face obstacles he couldn't anticipate? The tension wrapped around him tightly, and the moment loomed. A commitment requiring his absolute resolve awaited him. Would he confront the next challenge, or allow fears to steer him back to safety? The sunlight filtered through the trees as Jason clutched the steering wheel, its worn leather familiar but now suffocating. The drive to the job site felt elongated, each passing moment amplifying the weight of his apprehension. Panic prickled at the edges of his mind, intertwining with determination. He expelled a shaky breath, attempting to shake off the worrying thoughts. Failure loomed large in his imagination, taunting him with images of error and embarrassment. When he arrived at the property, his breath caught in his throat. The house was a skeleton of its former self, the peeling paint and broken windows glaring at him like an unsolvable challenge. His chest tightened, a mix of excitement and fear coursing through him. This wasn't just maintenance, it was a project that required innovation and skill. The walls crumbled under time's cruel grip, but so did his own confidence in the face of authenticity. With his toolkit in hand, he stepped inside, the musty scent enveloping him. Dust motes danced in the streams of light, illuminating the way forward. His heart raced as he surveyed the interior, a canvas demanding a fresh stroke of creativity. Much like himself, the house needed a revival. Its despair mirrored the feelings gnawing at his insides. Yet he refused to dwell on the fear of failure. Instead, he began the work. Jason methodically tackled the repairs. Nails in hand, he felt the weight of every hammer strike. With each task completed, the self-doubt receded, replaced by a nascent confidence. He didn't just want to fix the house, he needed it to reflect his commitment to change. Sweat dripped down his brow as he climbed a rickety ladder to fix rafters, but the act became cathartic. High above, he could see the structure's potential unfurling like a promised spring. Jason paused for a moment, glancing out over the landscape. A shift occurred within him, spurred by the view. The horizon appeared less daunting, more inviting. Suddenly, the pulse of reality returned with a thunderous crack. A shifting beam groaned beneath him, instability jolting him back to the ground. Jason felt a rush of fear. Adrenaline surged through him, and he stumbled, grasping for the ladder. Panic enveloped him. Would this one misstep send him tumbling back into the abyss of self-doubt? Had he really assumed he was capable of handling this alone? After regaining his composure, he took stock of the situation. He needed a step back, not just from the job, but from his mental whirlwind. He reached for his phone, contemplating a call to Rick, a lifeline that could foster collaboration and stability. Inviting support felt foreign, yet necessary. Jason hesitated, fingers hovering over the screen. What would he say? Asking for help would be as much an admission of vulnerability as it was a show of strength. Deep down, he faced a fundamental belief. Could teamwork truly enhance his ability, or did it signify an inability to stand alone? In that moment of conflict, he chose autonomy. His instincts nudged him forward. He would figure this out. As he tackled the next challenge, a wall marred by water damage, he observed how he approached problems differently than before. Instead of shrinking back, he dissected the damage, envisioning possibilities. Bit by bit, the wall transformed under his hands, the effort speaking louder than his insecurities. Yet, despite the tangible progress, a lingering unease shadowed his determination. Would his efforts hold up under scrutiny? Would Rick see the improvements as he imagined? And what if he revealed his vulnerabilities only for them to be dismissed? As twilight descended, casting an orange hue across the property, Jason stepped back to survey his work. The house looked different, better, but he still saw flaws, saw places where he might falter. Just then, the heaviness of uncertainty dropped like a stone in his stomach. The next morning, Rick was set to arrive. As Jason sat among his tools, the looming question hung in the air like the dust settling around him. Was he ready to reveal his progress and risk confronting the fears that still loomed? The moment of truth awaited him. Would he embrace the evaluation or turn away when the spotlight shone brightest? The morning light broke through the remnants of the house's shattered windows, casting sharp shadows that contrasted with Jason's own internal struggle. He sat on the ground among his tools, the wooden planks around him a stark reminder of the challenges he faced, a reminder of his own fragility. An anxious knot twisted in his stomach as he replayed the weight of his choices. The moment of truth was approaching, and he had to prepare himself not just for Rick's arrival, but for the vulnerability that loomed just outside the door. He ran a hand through his hair, feeling the sweat of yesterday's labor still clinging to him. It felt like a shroud, simultaneously grounding and stifling. Every corner of the job site whispered potential, yet they also echoed doubts of inadequacy. He inhaled deeply, drawing in the dust-laden air that flickered with sunlight. Change was in the atmosphere, but so was fear. As he shifted his gaze onto the wall he had repaired, his mind spiraled into thoughts. What if he had miscalculated the severity of the damage? What if all his efforts turned out to be merely surface level, hiding deeper structural issues? He gripped his hammer tightly, his knuckles whitening. He wasn't just seeking validation from Rick, he was grappling with the reality of his own perceived inadequacies. But then a sliver of resolve pierced through the thick fog of doubt. He remembered the small triumphs, the moments when he assessed a problem, dissected it, and executed a solution. Each repair was a piece of a greater narrative he was attempting to craft, not just for the dilapidated house, but for himself. He had chosen autonomy, and it was time to own it fully. Stirred from his reflective state, he stood up, the wooden floor creaking beneath him, a sound reminiscent of his own unsteady footing. He couldn't allow fear to anchor him down today. He grabbed his tools, ready to make the last finishing touches before Rick arrived. As he moved about, he embraced the rhythm of the work again, hammering in nails, smoothing out the freshly painted surface with meticulous care. Every strike echoed his determination to rebuild, his past, his resolve, his self-worth. The sensation of mission grew with each tangible amendment he made, transforming insecurity into a canvas where he painted hope. There was something satisfying in the labor, and as the minutes slipped away, Jason found himself lost in the act of creation. But the earlier awareness of Rick's impending arrival unfurled in the back of his mind. Each hammering blow resonated with an undercurrent of anxiety. The upcoming evaluation would magnify his flaws, and how would he handle the truth that lay hidden beneath the surface? Minutes turned into what felt like hours, and just as he completed the last touch, the roar of an engine sliced through his thought process. Jason's heart raced as he wiped his sweaty palms on his work pants. Would Rick appreciate the effort he had put in? Would he see the house for what it had become, or only through the lens of its past? The footsteps approached the entrance, and Jason steadied his breath, trying to contain an escalating heart rate that had sprouted from the ground of his self-doubt. Rick's form appeared, his eyes surveying the environment as he stepped into the home. "What have you done?" Rick's voice carried a mix of curiosity and disbelief, and all Jason could do was brace himself. The tension slipped through his fingers, a palpable weight ready to drop. For the first time, he realized this was no longer just about the house or the work. It was ultimately about who he was becoming. What Jason hadn't anticipated was that the outcome of this moment could redefine his understanding of success and failure alike. As Rick approached, his expression shifted from scrutiny to one of incredulity, leaving Jason on the precipice of revelation. What had he truly accomplished, and at what cost? The answers began to unfurl in Jason's mind, just as Rick opened his mouth to speak, ready to lay bare the truth he had been both longing for and dreading. Would it be a validation of his growth, or would it sever the fragile thread of self-acceptance he had begun to weave? The moment had come. How would he embrace what followed? Rick stepped farther into the house, his gaze sweeping across the freshly painted walls and newly fixed rafters. "I can't believe this is the same place I saw a week ago," he exclaimed, genuine astonishment coloring his tone. Jason's heart did a somersault. Here was the validation he had long yearned for. Yet fear still shadowed his confidence. Would Rick see this transformation through the lens of a mere repair? Or could it serve as a testament to Jason's metamorphosis? "Thank you," Jason replied, his voice steadier than he felt.
"I wanted it to be more than just a fix." Rick walked closer, inspecting the details with a critical yet appreciative eye. "You've done incredible work, Jason. This is more than I anticipated. You've taken a dilapidated house and breathed life into it. This is what quality looks like." With each compliment, Jason felt the constriction in his chest ease, but doubts still clawed at his mind. Was he truly capable of sustaining such achievements? "It's a big job, but the work isn't finished yet," Jason said, tentatively voicing his awareness of the further challenges ahead. "There's so much more to do." "But look how far you've come in 1 week," Rick urged, a note of determination in his voice. "You can't underestimate that." With Rick's words resonating deeply within him, Jason reflected on the journey, the fears, the failures, and the ever-looming shadow of self-doubt. Days ago, he had grappled with the fear of inadequacy that threatened to hold him back. Today, he stood surrounded by tangible proof of his perseverance, and the blossoming self-worth was like a warm light illuminating his path forward. "Let's talk about the next steps," Rick said, pulling Jason back to the conversation. "Based on your work here, I think there's a lot of potential for you in this industry. People will pay for someone who has this kind of meticulous attention to detail." Awash with a recognition of his own capabilities, Jason replied, "I'd love to take on more projects." His words etched a stronger commitment to himself, enhanced by Rick's willingness to champion his success. As they discussed the financials, a relatively small amount compared to what Jason had feared, he began to view each dollar as validation of his efforts. This wasn't just pay, it was an affirmation of his worth in a world that had seemed unforgiving. "I'd like to create a formal agreement for future work to keep things clear. Transparency is critical," Jason suggested, pride swelling in his chest. "Absolutely. Let's draft something that captures the essence of what you're providing," Rick replied, his respect increasing with each passing minute. By the time they finalized the proposal, Jason could hardly contain the excitement bubbling within him. Each step he had taken toward reclaiming his identity was now undeniably solidified. As Rick prepared to leave, he dropped a powerful piece of advice. "Keep believing you can achieve more. This is just the beginning, Jason. Remember, this legacy is about building yourself just as much as it is about building homes for others." Jason nodded, feeling an overwhelming gratitude surge through him. "I appreciate that. I need to remember it. This journey is mine to define." With that exchange, Jason recognized a fundamental change within himself. Gone were the paralyzing fears that had once dominated his mind. They had been replaced with a sense of proactive responsibility. His aspiration to forge a future for his children was clearer than ever. Later that evening, as he sat with Emily and Ben, he shared his plans with them, the children's faces lighting up with pride. They could sense the shift in their father, and Jason realized that this moment wasn't just for him, it was for them too. He was transforming, not simply for his own sake, but to provide a model of resilience and empowerment in the face of adversity. Jason had achieved a solid foundation for the life he aspired to build. He had demonstrated endurance, skill, and the capacity to rise above the struggles that had previously bound him. He wasn't just a father, he was now a budding entrepreneur, ready to embrace new opportunities with both hands. As the sun dipped behind the horizon and evening settled in, the future glimmered with possibility. Jason felt a palpable sense of satisfaction coursing through him.
He had conquered moments of self-doubt with concrete actions, shaped a newfound vision for himself, and reclaimed his narrative in a way that felt both authentic and empowering. It cemented a truth. The greatest achievements often arise from facing one's fears head-on. Now was the time for action and forward momentum. What mattered most was not merely where he had come from, but rather where he was boldly determined to go. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. True fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.